You are listening to the Live Well with Arthritis podcast, helping you to live a healthier and happier life with your arthritis. Every episode contains science-backed support, expert advice, and a deep understanding of the reality of living with arthritis. I'm your host, Emily Johnson, also known as Arthritis Foodie. I'm a best-selling author and the founder of Live Well with Arthritis. Whether you've been living with arthritis for years, or you're navigating a new diagnosis, or perhaps you have symptoms and are looking for answers, this podcast is for you. For more support, you can join the waitlist for my course, Live Well with Arthritis, on www.livewellwitharthritis.com/waitlist. That's www.livewellwitharthritis.com/waitlist. Places are limited, so the earlier you sign up, the better. Now, let's get into the episode. I am so delighted to welcome Eli Brecher to the show. Eli is a registered associate nutritionist on a mission to help people optimize their nutrition and transform their health in mind, body, and gut. She's the creator of the Mind, Body, Gut Method, a signature system that combines science-backed nutrition principles with personalized advice, lifestyle strategies, mindset practices, and ongoing accountability to help people thrive on their health journey. With her passion for food and wellness, Eli has established herself as one of the industry's leading recipe developers, working with high-profile brands and delivering corporate nutrition talks. She is also the host of the Gut 360 podcast, which empowers listeners to build a healthier gut and a happier life using a 360-degree approach to well-being. Eli, thank you so much for joining me today. Your work combines nutrition, gut health, and overall well-being in such an inspiring way. So I really want to start by asking you what drew you to become a nutritionist and how your own journey with gut health has influenced the work that you do.
Thank you so much, Emily, for having me. Firstly, I'm really happy to be here with you. So my journey into nutrition really started long before I ever studied it professionally. I was diagnosed with Crohn's at the age of 8 years old. So I grew up really aware of how food and stress and lifestyle can have such a strong impact on our body. And over the years, I realized that nutrition could be such a powerful tool for helping people to feel better from the inside out. And that personal experience that I had is really at the heart of what I do today. It's taught me empathy, it's taught me curiosity, and it's really shaped my belief that health is not about perfection. It's just about understanding your body and giving it what it needs to thrive.
That's so true. It is actually at the heart of everything, isn't it? Learning your own body and your own wellness and how to take care of yourself. So, how did your Crohn's come about when you were 8 years old, and how did your parents cope with that? And did they start looking at nutrition at that age, or is it something that you came to later on in your life?
Yeah, well, actually, I'd been having symptoms for less than a year. So I was diagnosed fairly quickly, which is great. And initially was given a whole load of medications. My mum started to look into nutrition, asking questions. I'll be honest with you, the NHS dietitians didn't give me that much helpful advice. But over the course of the years, I started at my family and I started to do research and I started to lead a healthier lifestyle, particularly when I got to university. So actually, my first year was the same as any fresher. I was going out a lot, I was drinking a lot, and eating pizza at 4 a.m. and I really suffered the consequences. And as I started looking more into my nutrition and my diet and what could support with my Crohn's symptoms and help to bring it under control and into remission, I really took it upon myself to make that my number one challenge. So I started cooking healthier meals, learning about how to cook from scratch, eating more real, natural, whole foods, less ultra processed foods, less alcohol. And living with Crohn's from such a young age has taught me that it's also never just physical. It's also emotional, mental. It's very personal. So it's really made me appreciate that whole mind, body, gut connection that I talk about now every day in my practice with my clients. And I learn also about slowing down and stress management and creating routines that support my body and making nutrition something empowering rather than something really restrictive. So it's also made me passionate to help others to feel safe and supported and understood in their health journeys too.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. And for somebody listening to the show right now, what exactly is Crohn's in your own words?
It's an autoimmune condition that affects mainly the digestive system. So, autoimmune, as you'll know, means your body is kind of attacking itself. It sees its own cells as foreign invaders. And so, often one of the treatments is immunosuppressants, so medication that weakens your immune system to stop it overreacting to itself. And it's similar with arthritis, as you know, of course.
Absolutely, yeah. And how does Crohn's impact your day-to-day life now? Are you in a much better place? Do you ever have flare-ups, or are you in full remission, or how's your journey been with that?
I'm in a really good place now. I'm in remission. I'm always mindful about what I eat because it's something that you do need to be on top of. So even when you kind of get the green light and you have a test that comes back and says everything looks good, that doesn't mean you can go and eat burgers for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, unfortunately. And obviously, as a nutritionist, I understand the impact of what we eat on our long-term health, and I want to look after my body and my mind as well, my energy, my hormones, my gut. So I'd say I'm mindful of my lifestyle. Sleep is important. As I said, stress management is important. Things like the basics, exercise doesn't need to be high intensity interval training. I love Pilates and yoga and bar. I love walking outside. These kinds of things all really add up, and they're actually what I'd say is the foundation of the health pyramid. So it's really getting all the basics on track. I think so many people, they'll scroll through Instagram and TikTok and they'll see some influencers saying, take this supplement, it's going to boost your immune system. And they'll go and spend all this money on things like that. But ultimately, what really matters is those foundations, those key pillars. So eating your fruits and vegetables, getting in some high quality protein, some healthy fats, a good amount of fiber, colorful, antioxidant rich foods, and yeah, of course, the lifestyle stuff, the exercise and sleep and stress.
Absolutely, it's every single element in one whole picture, isn't it? Which is what you talk about a lot. And yeah, it's interesting what you said about, just because you're doing well, you can't then slip back into eating whatever you want and do whatever you want. Because the way I like to look at it is like, think about your future self. What does that future self need from you in the moment, in that day? So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, I
Um,
completely agree. It's all about thinking about your future self as well. And so if that means, day in, day out, eating those balanced meals, protein, healthy fats, fiber, plants, maintaining your boundaries if you need to, getting in your rest, your early nights, your gentle movement, keeping your stress levels in check, all of that your future self will thank you for as much as what's on your plate.
Definitely. So, what's on your plate? That's something we could segue into because many people hear the words anti-inflammatory eating and anti-inflammatory lifestyle, and they may think it's about restricting themselves and cutting foods out. So, how do you reframe this narrative and sort of what are practical ways that people can add anti-inflammatory foods like plants, omega-3s, fiber, etc., quality proteins into their diet without feeling overwhelmed? If someone's listening, where would you recommend that they first start with anti-inflammatory eating?
Definitely. Well, I always say that anti-inflammatory eating is about addition, not deprivation. So instead of focusing on what you need to remove, I would always encourage people to ask, what can I add in to nourish my body today? So it can be as simple as adding an extra handful of leafy greens to your dinner, some chia and flax seeds at breakfast, or some berries and colorful vegetables to your meals, fresh or dried herbs, things like turmeric, ginger, rosemary, oregano, one or two portions of oily fish a week, great for omega-3, or even a spoonful of fermented foods like kefir or sauerkraut. These are great for your gut, and we know that 70% of our immune system lives in our gut. So small additions like this can really build up over time and create some very meaningful shifts without making you feel overwhelmed.
Definitely. And over time is a key thing as well, isn't it? Because if you've been living with an inflammatory condition like Crohn's, like arthritis, like autoimmunity for a while, it's going to take some time to sort of help your gut, heal your gut, get it to a better place. And just to touch on that, the gut does play a central role in inflammation and overall health. Can you explain how gut health impacts inflammation throughout the body, in particular in relation to autoimmunity?
Absolutely. So, with it housing about 70% of our immune system in the gut, that means that the gut is a major driver of inflammation for the whole body. So, when the gut lining is supported and our microbiome is diverse, so the microbiome that's the collection of trillions of bacteria and organisms that we have living in our gut, that helps to regulate our immune response and to keep inflammation in check. But when the gut becomes imbalanced or inflamed or stressed, that can then trigger immune reactions that travel far beyond digestion, including our joints, for example, even our brain. And so people with arthritis or autoimmune conditions, supporting your gut health can help to calm that systemic inflammation, so inflammation throughout the body, and reduce flares and reduce symptoms.
Definitely. And for someone who is looking to start with their anti-inflammatory eating and recipes and things like that, but they feel a bit overwhelmed, what would you say to someone, you know, who's in the kitchen and their partner wants to help? How do you navigate this with friends, with family, with eating out? How does that work?
I would say think about a few powerful, accessible habits that you can include, even one or two a week or one or two every couple of weeks, and layer them on. So try and start your day with a balanced breakfast with protein and fiber. Chat to whoever you're living with, your partner or your family, and see if they can help support you with this. Aim for more plant foods. So aim for 20 to 30 different plant foods over the course of the week, even more if you can. And that doesn't just mean 30 different types of fruit and veg. It also means whole grains, nuts, seeds, beans, legumes, herbs, and spices. All of these are plant points that kind of accumulate throughout the week. So that's good for your microbiome diversity. Try and swap refined carbs for whole grains to support your blood sugar stability and in turn your inflammation over time. You can add those herbs and spices that we mentioned for some anti-inflammatory support. You can think about your omega-3s. So I know I mentioned oily fish. Oily fish is salmon, mackerel, anchovies, sardines, herring. But if you don't like those oily fish or you don't eat fish, you can also go for plant-based options like walnuts and chia seeds and flax seeds. And the basics, stay hydrated, manage your stress, prioritize your sleep. As we said, these are all underrated, but so, so important. So I think it's important that you talk to your support system, your network, and encourage them to get involved with all of these things too, so you feel less alone.
Yeah, most definitely. I would agree with all of that. And what are your thoughts on, we have touched on probiotics and things like, your sauerkraut, your kimchi, your kefir, and things like that. If people can't have access to that, what are your thoughts on probiotic supplements? Do you take any yeah, do you have any thoughts on that?
So, supplements are always going to be personal, and I tend not to give blanket recommendations. Probiotic supplements can be helpful, but what I would say is there are so many out there on the market, and they all contain different strains, different amounts of bacteria. You'll see things like 20 billion CFU or 50 billion CFU, that's colony forming units. And a lot of people won't really know what to go for. So sometimes someone will just walk into a health food store and pick up the first probiotic they see on the shelf. But if you can seek out personalized advice from a registered nutritionist, someone who knows what they're talking about and can advise you on what would be best for you specifically, that's ideal because certain strains of bacteria are helpful for certain things, but might make no difference for other issues that you're looking to take it for.
That's so true and very, very sound advice. Thank you for that. And just to go back to the family and friends and the support system, how would you advise someone if they're, changing their diet and lifestyle, then they're really kind of dedicated to doing it, but then they have a meal out with a friend for their birthday or they have a dinner to go to, or how do you balance that, the anti-inflammatory eating when you're socializing and you're out with family and friends? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's that keyword balance. It really is all about balance. I would say what is really important is what you're doing 90% of the time in your own home. If you make sure that at home you are cooking meals from scratch the majority of the time, you're meal prepping, you're organized, you're getting in lots of colorful plant points throughout the week, and those healthy lean proteins, and those healthy fats and oily fish, and all the good stuff, it's less important when you're out every now and then. You don't need to stress yourself out. Often the amount of stress that you'll cause yourself is can be more damaging than the meal itself. Of course, you don't want to stray completely off plan, and you need to know what works for you. And everyone's different, so you might have certain foods that you're particularly sensitive to, and of course, you'd want to avoid those. You can check out the menu in advance. You can even call up in advance. You can speak to the waiter quietly and say, I am intolerant to X, Y, and Z. Please, can you make sure that my food is cooked in olive oil rather than butter if dairy doesn't suit you, for example? Ask for certain things on the side, get creative, but do have a look at the menu in advance so you can kind of plan out what you're going to order. And you can also speak to the people that you're going out with, and you can say, this restaurant is really quite difficult for my dietary requirements. Do you mind if we go here or here instead?
So, Ellie, thank you so much for that. What are the sort of biggest misconceptions when it comes to gut health, nutrition, inflammation? And for someone listening who, there's a lot of noise on social media, as I'm sure you know, and a lot of misinformation, disinformation. And so for someone sort of looking online at all this content, what would you really love them to know right now from you as a registered nutritionist?
Well, one big misconception is that gut health requires these really extreme diets and cutting out long lists of food. And in reality, diversity and balance are what's really key. And another myth I'd say is that supplements alone can fix everything. But as we said, lifestyle, stress, sleep matter just as much, if not more. And finally, I'd also say people often think that gut symptoms are normal when actually they can be messages from your body asking for support. So if you're someone, for example, who struggles with persistent bloating from the moment you wake up, it gets worse throughout the day every day, that is a sign to seek help. But with the right tools, it's absolutely possible to feel better.
Thank you for that. And the symptoms that you've just touched on, so the bloating during the day, is there anything else that people should potentially look out for when it comes to their gut health and gut dysbiosis and, the kinds of things that they could sort of witness in their own bodies to know, okay, there's something going on?
So firstly, any digestive symptoms that don't seem normal. So if you are particularly constipated, if you are the other way, going to the bathroom all the time, you'd want to seek help. If you have any blood, that's a red flag that you need to speak to your GP and see what's going on. But beyond the digestive system, there's a lot of other systems within the body that can be affected by gut health. So, for example, your skin. If you're constantly getting acne breakouts, you're struggling with really bad eczema, psoriasis, rosacea, all of these can be connected to your gut health. So that's just one example. Your joints is another that can be connected to your gut and inflammation throughout the body. So anything that seems off, always just get it checked out. Speak to a doctor, speak to a nutritionist as well, and see what you can do, because often it will come back to your gut, and it will start with looking after your gut health.
Thank you so much for sharing that. You're so right in that it's not just, your typical gut health symptoms like your Bristol stool chart and your bloating. There's so many other things that can reflect when your body is inflamed. So I'd love to touch on that as well. So, obviously sorting out your gut health will help your inflammation levels and gut issues and hopefully your chronic pain as well. So how else does supporting your gut health help the rest of your body? For example, your mental health and your stress levels and things like that. How is that connected to the brain? And yeah.
So there's something called the gut-brain axis, which I talk about a lot, or the gut-brain connection. And essentially your gut and your brain are constantly communicating with each other through this gut-brain axis. So when the gut is inflamed or imbalanced, that can influence your mood, your anxiety levels, your energy. And so supporting your gut health can actually help to stabilize these pathways and improve your emotional resilience. And stress management is a huge part of my work for this reason, because stress is inflammatory. So simple practices like deep breathing, nervous system regulation, sleep routines, gentle movement, even incorporating some meditation into your daily routine can make a real difference here.
I absolutely love meditation. I do it twice a day. It's just, yeah, it's been
Wow, twice a
phenomenal.
day. That's
Yeah.
impressive.
Once in the morning, once in the evening. It's definitely made a difference. And yeah, thank you for drawing upon those different methods. But what would you say are sort of the, I'd say like three essential things for people to do when it comes to managing their stress that you recommend to your clients?
Well, I think that it's important to build your own toolkit of stress management techniques, because different people will resonate with different things. Some people love meditation, like you. I quite like meditation as well. I'm not at twice a day at this stage, but I think that meditation is so powerful. Other people just can't connect to it, and they manage their stress by having a warm bath, maybe with some Epsom salts, which contain magnesium sulfate that you absorb through your skin, and that helps you feel relaxed. And then they get into bed with a good book, maybe like a fiction novel, and that really helps them switch off. Other people can really benefit from gentle movements and also getting outside more, especially first thing in the morning to help reset their circadian rhythm or their natural body clock. So, if you struggle with sleep at night, often that starts with what you do first thing in the morning. If you wake up and you scroll and you look at the blue light of your phone and your screens, that actually doesn't help your body to reset your natural body clock, your circadian rhythm. Whereas when you get outside, what happens is the natural light sends a signal to your brain to say, stop producing melatonin, the sleep hormone now. It's morning. Let's, get into daytime mode. That helps to support your energy throughout the day as well. So really finding whatever tools in that toolkit work best for you. Journaling is another great one that I personally think is really helpful. Some of my clients do it daily and they love it. Others just kind of can't get on board. I think breath work can be brilliant as well. So there's all different types of breath work, but experiment. There's plenty of free videos on YouTube as well, or you can find people that you connect with through social media and give it a go. And so many different modalities available now to manage our stress.
So, so true. And I love the idea of the toolkit, the stress toolkit, and personalizing it to you. And sometimes you just have to try these things and see what works. And interestingly, I did try meditation on and off for a number of years and never quite got into it. And then something switched this year and now I'm really into it. So it could
Yeah.
be as well. Yeah, it could also be like a timing thing as well. So thank you for sharing that. And you touched on sleep there, which I'd love to explore a little bit more. So you mentioned about the circadian rhythm and things you can do to help yourself get your body to a good place that you're ready in the evening for a good night's sleep. What are the other things that you could recommend that people do or start to bring into their routine to help support their sleep?
Having dinner earlier is a big one. So, ideally, leaving a break of at least 3 hours between finishing your dinner and then going to bed, not snacking after dinner. Have your dinner. And then, if you want something sweet, if you want a couple of squares of dark chocolate, have it. Make yourself a herbal tea, a chamomile or a ginger tea or a peppermint tea. And then go and brush your teeth and tell yourself the kitchen is closed until breakfast. This is what I tell my clients and myself actually. And just no evening grazing because that can really impact your sleep. Obviously, you want to make sure that your dinner is really satiating, balanced, and contains plenty of protein and healthy fats and fibers so it keeps you full. You don't want to be really hungry at 10 o'clock just before you go to bed. But yeah, having dinner earlier is a big one. Also, making sure that you are staying hydrated throughout the day rather than getting to dinner time, realize that you haven't drunk any water and then downing your 2 liters. And then, of course, you're going to be up the whole night. Herbal tea is a nice way to wind down as well. So it can really help to calm the nervous system. Choosing some of those practices from the stress management toolkit that we talked about as well to do in the evening can be great. And also thinking about what you're eating. So certain foods contain melatonin, which is the sleep hormone, or can help the body to produce it. So, for example, one is tart cherry juice in particular. Seems a bit random, but it's the most melatonin rich food that there is. And then there are other foods like poultry, turkey in particular, can help your body to, it contains tryptophan, which is an amino acid that's needed to make serotonin, the happy hormone, and serotonin gets converted into melatonin, the sleep hormone. So don't worry about all the science, but there are certain foods that can help to support your sleep as well.
Thank you for sharing that. And tryptophan, that's taken me back to an essay I wrote for my course. So that's, yeah, amazing. Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. What's your go-to herbal tea then, would you say, on an evening? What's your favorite?
I like any of the blends from Pukka. Pukka tea is
Mm.
delicious. I also like a brand called Hampstead Tea. I'd say from Pukka they have a nice nighttime blend, but also their berry blends are really nice. There's one with different berries and echinacea. Anything nice and herbal and organic after dinner really helps me wind down. Even throughout the afternoon, sometimes I'll have a nice herbal tea as well.
I love that. And that's an easy everyday habit or an easy swap that somebody could start doing today, couldn't it? Just start with that herbal tea on an evening, and as they start to build their habits, what are the other kind of easy wins or that people can do, a bit like the herbal tea, that people could start with when they're feeling quite overwhelmed about making changes to their diet and lifestyle?
Definitely. Well, I would say try making things from scratch is quite an easy win and you feel very accomplished. So even going back to the herbal tea, if you don't want to go and spend money on, organic tea, you can buy some fresh ginger from the supermarket, some fresh turmeric, grate it or just chop it into small bits, add a squeeze of lemon, add some fresh mint leaves if you want, top it with hot water. Once it's cooled down a little bit, you then mix in a little bit of Manuka honey, but that the good properties of the Manuka get killed by too much heat. So that's why you want the tea to cool down a bit before adding it. But also making other things from scratch is some things are really simple to make, but they feel like a big win. So for example, hummus is one that I love to make from scratch. So you get to control exactly what goes into it, how much oil goes into it, what the quality of the oil that you're using. It's really simple. If you've got a good blender or a food processor, you just add your chickpeas, tahini, garlic, lemon, and some extra virgin olive oil, and then you can add any herbs or spices that you want. It's not expensive. The ingredients aren't particularly expensive to buy, and you can make a big quantity. You can make it, big batches, add it to your packed lunch throughout the week, meal prep. That's another kind of easy win. If you put aside a couple of hours on a Sunday and maybe halfway through the week as well, you're sorted for the entire week.
Love all of those tips. That's absolutely brilliant. And so if people want to work with you on the mind, body, gut method, which, looks at health from a 360-degree perspective, could you break down a little bit what your course means, what this approach is, and why blending the mind, body, and gut together is so powerful in reducing inflammation and supporting overall well-being?
Absolutely. So I created my signature system, the mind body gut method, which is essentially a formula that I use with all my clients to see success and progress in their gut health, but also their full body health with that 360-degree approach. And it integrates the three main pillars. So mind looks at stress, mindset, emotional well-being. Body focuses on nutrition, sleep, hormones, daily habits. We talk about things like the circadian rhythm and supplements. And then gut is really about your microbiome balance and your digestion, your inflammatory pathways. And when you support all three of these together, you're addressing the root drivers of inflammation rather than just the symptoms. So it's quite a holistic system that helps people rebuild trust in their own bodies and create sustainable habits that can support them long term. So this is what I use with my one-to-one clients. This is what I use in my group program and in everything that I offer.
Incredible. It sounds absolutely brilliant. What advice would you give to somebody who's been newly diagnosed with an autoimmune condition like arthritis or Crohn's, who's feeling, overwhelmed, unsure where to begin to start caring for their body? What would you say to them as they're listening to this episode?
I would say start small. So choose just one or two habits that feel manageable, like adding a colorful vegetable to each meal or setting a consistent sleep routine. Try to get evidence-based information and advice from the right people. And also remember that your body is not your enemy, although it can sometimes feel like it at the start of an autoimmune journey. Your body's just doing its best to protect you. And so, with the right guidance, you can help to calm inflammation, you can support your gut, you can build a way of living that truly nourishes you.
Yeah, nourishing you and also ends up nourishing the people around you as well, because they start to learn these healthy habits too, don't they?
That's absolutely so true. I couldn't agree more.
Oh, and it's been so amazing having you on this episode. I am going to round off by asking my one thing question. So this is what is the one key takeaway or message for listeners as they end this episode that you'd like them to take away with them today?
My one thing would be that your gut and immune system are so deeply connected. And so, by focusing on your gut health with all those practices that we talked about, you can support inflammation naturally. You can support long term whole body health with a 360-degree approach.
Absolutely fantastic. And finally, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram. You can follow me at Eli Brecher Nutrition, ELIBRECHER Nutrition. And I share recipes and nutrition tips there every day. And then you can also check out my website, ellibrecher.co.uk, which has plenty of nutrition articles and lots more recipes on there too. And advice and, information on how to work with me, all my programs, working with me one-to-one is all on my Instagram.
Thank you so much. And it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. Everybody must go to Ellie's website and Instagram because her recipes look absolutely delicious. And I've made a couple of them over the years. They taste amazing as well. So
thank you so much, Emily. Thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure to chat to you today.
It's been such a joy. Thank you so much, Ellie, and speak soon. We'll have to have you on again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Live Well with Arthritis podcast. If you're enjoying it, please follow and leave a review. I'd really love to hear from you. To sign up to the waitlist for the Live Well with Arthritis course, head to livewellwitharthritis.com/waitlist. For any questions or to suggest topics, email us over on hello@livewellwitharthritis.com. You can follow me over on @arthritisfoodie, that's ARTHRITISFOODIE. And you can also follow Live Well with Arthritis on @livewellwitharthritis to stay tuned for the latest updates, news, podcast episodes, recipes, and a whole lot more. I'll see you there. Until next time, live well and lots of love from me to you. P.S. Before you go, I have to let you know that this podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for the advice of your medical professional, whether that be your rheumatologist, GP, specialist, or other qualified professional. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.